The Shade, number 2, written by James Robinson, art by Cully Hamner. We last left off with the eponymous Shade being completely dismembered by Deathstroke and left for dead in the middle of a park. This issue picks up with Shade being rightly pissed about that and yelling like, Deathstroke, how dare he? By the way, I feel like I need to wear a top hat for reading this entire issue, but I digress. He's just like, how dare that guy? I mean, Deathstroke, he's nothing in the list of things I've seen. And then it's revealed that in actuality, he felt Deathstroke's presence long before Deathstroke ever showed up. He knew that Deathstroke had himself a robotic double or whatever, so he sent his own shadow double, and that's the one that was actually killed. And it turns out he's recounting this whole thing to his girlfriend, whatever you want to call it, Hope, and is like, okay, so I mean, that's kind of weird, right? How neither of us were in the fight. And she's like, okay, I think literally here, this is the best quote to describe this book. So lots of big words meaning not a whole lot. And normally that's part of your charm. There you go. That's it. Because there are a lot of big words. So anyway, they're like, okay, but there was a hitman sent after you. You should be much more concerned about this. And he's like, oh, I'm very concerned, which is why I'm here at your apartment. I didn't want you hearing from someone else that I had died, because I think I'm just going to stay dead while I do this investigation. I'm going to let people think that, I'm not around, so that way I can get into places where I need to go. But that means that I'm not going to be here for a while. It might be a couple months until I see you again, so I just wanted to say goodbye. And she's like, they're passionate. They play off each other a little bit, and they're like, oh, I don't like you that much, but I really do. I love you, so they kiss, and it's nice. And then we cut to the secret agent guy, who is now, I believe, in France, or at least he's fighting French hitmen. And he goes through this whole thing about how how his memory is going a little bit, but it's played for a joke. I'm not actually sure if that's going to be a thing. And then how the last people who came after him were Belgian, these new ones are French, and they're not any more dangerous than the Belgians, but their boss actually is something to contend with, and apparently the boss is personally coming after this guy, and he's like, oh, by the way, I also should have introduced myself. My name is Von Hammer, private detective and a sex machine with all the chicks. Parentheses, actually I'm not, but I've always wanted to say that. I like Von Hammer. I hope I remember his name. So then we go to, as far as I can tell, some equivalent of the Seattle Space Needle in whatever town they're in. And Shade needs to talk to someone named Jake Benetti, better known as Bobo. I don't know this person, but regardless, he has a conversation, and he's like, hey, I'm just letting you know, someone's after me, I'm going out of town, I'm going to solve this case. And Bobo's like, actually, you know what? I already knew that someone was going to be killing you. See, I happened to get a message from a man in Germany who said that he knew someone was coming after you, and he wanted me to relay a message. So just letting you know that's a thing now. And he's like, oh, really? What was the name of the... What was the name that he had to give me that was so important? And the name of the person who I guess is trying to kill him is Caldecott. So I'm going to cut back to Von Hammer. He's sitting in a hotel room, and he's just sitting there cleaning his gun. He goes on for a very long time about the music that he's listening to. And then the French mob literally blows open the door, and this giant hulking shadow beast is there, who just goes, bonjour, Von Hammer. Non? Yes? No? And he's like, yeah, I'm Von Hammer, and I take it you're Bête Noire. And he's like, yes, I am, and you should be honored to have me kill you. I'm going to stop with the accent. But he's like, yeah, well, would bullets even do anything against you? He's like, nope. So I'm just going to kill you now. So as he's about to kill Von Hammer, Shade comes in, and he's like, I'm not really a fan of bullies and bores, and you're both of them, Bête Noire. So we're going to have ourselves a fight. So it's a big fight scene. Von Hammer's going around killing all of the actual people, where Shade is fighting Bête Noire. And it doesn't seem to be going so well for Shade, but then after, 4 panels, he turns it around, and he apparently casts some sort of spell on Bed Noir so that it decomposes his shadow back to the, for lack of better term, shadow realm. And Von Hamner kills off the last of the actual people. So then they have a talk up on the roof so that they can see if anybody else is coming for them. And Von Hamner tells him, like, look, I was hired to find... Well, first off, they go on a whole thing of, okay, well, here's the story so far. And Shade literally interrupts him and be like, I know all this. Just tell me why you were hired. And Von Hammer's like, well, I was hired to see if there was any of your blood still in existence on Earth. And apparently, in all the time that he's been overcast with shadow, whatever, he lost the last part of his humanity, aka his blood. But there was a point when he had shadow magic and had human blood, and there's apparently some of his blood possibly still on Earth. But when he discovered that some pharmaceutical company, Caldecott, is the one who's searching for it, he's like, well, I'm willing to tell you that Caldecott's after you and that they want your blood. So what's the next step? And he's like, all right, well, now you work for me. I want you to go to England because that's where Caldecott is centralized. And I want you to just find out anything you can about them. And Von Hammer's like, all right, sounds good. What are you doing? He's like, I'm going to Australia. And we get one page of some weird fish demon-looking thing in Australia who says, he'll be here soon. I sense it, unavoidable, inevitable, and I will be ready. I don't know who this guy is. I have no clue. But apparently he's necessary to the story. I like this one a lot more than the first one. I still feel like I'm missing stuff, like Bobo. That came out of nowhere. And I feel like there's a bunch of other stuff that I should be aware of going into this, but I'm not. And I don't know how much it's a detriment to the story because of it. Like the Bobo bit, I ended up just accepting. I was like, all right, this is just a character I'm supposed to know, but I don't. And that's fine. It's fine to have those characters, but it's just, I really want to know, would this be much better if I knew anything about Starman, pretty much. Overall, the issue on its own, because you shouldn't have to know prior stuff without going into this series, especially at the beginning of a reboot. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 7, mainly for the art and the fact that the writing, while really verbose and grand, still manages to keep a good flow to it. Like I can hear the character in my head. He's very pompous and all that, but he has a very clear and distinct voice, and I like that. The art style is also very fitting, a lot of heavy blacks, which makes sense. So yeah, no, it's good. I just wonder if it would be better if I had any idea what they were talking about.